Welcome to Texas Rye Whiskey Studies for the National, even International Rye Whiskey Tournament, review number 2. Today is Saturday, July 19th, 2025, and I'm coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas, where it is currently 97 degrees. Last time on this channel, we looked at the Basil Hayden Dark Rye, which is a blend using some straight rye from James B. Beam Distillery and a rye from an unnamed Canadian distillery, but probably Alberta Premium because James B. Beam Distilling Company owns the Alberta Distilling Company. And so then they mixed some port wine from California in with that blend, and you get the Basil Hayden Dark Rye. And I gave that Basil Hayden Dark Rye a 93 and an A+. It is fantastic for me. But today we go north of the border to Alberta Premium to look at this 80 proof whiskey from Alberta Premium. Now, I have previously reviewed this whiskey on my other channel about a year and a half ago. It did not fare so well, so let's see if my palate has changed or if there's any change in this whiskey. So just the facts. This is an 80 proof rye blend from Alberta Distillers, and this is a 100% rye, as you can see right there on the label. It uses rye from the Canadian Prairie and Rocky Mountain Glacier water. I paid $24.48 for this bottle 2 years ago at Specs, but now I can get it for $19.99, 750 milliliter bottle at Goody Goody. Tasting notes. I get just a little bit of honey, maybe some grassy notes, and some light fruits like possibly apples, green grapes, just a hint of rye spice. Very smooth, no real burn, just some mouth tingles. Nothing offensive here, but I found the flavors to be very weak at this proof. My score for this whiskey was a 69. Letter grade for drinkability, C+. Recommendation. While this is not a bad tasting whiskey, it is so faint and the flavors are so weak that it's just really kind of useless for me. I simply can't recommend this whiskey, and I'm really very disappointed in it. Now for the details. Start with history. This whiskey comes from Alberta Distillers Limited in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but is owned by Beam-Suntory. The distillery was built in 1946 and prides itself on being rooted in the farmland of Alberta. Works very closely with Canadian farmers, utilizing local grains and pure Rocky Mountain water. This is the #1 selling rye whiskey distributor in the world in at least 2017 to 21, and that's pretty impressive. Keep in mind, that doesn't necessarily mean that this bottle and label is #1. They sell lots of whiskey to other distilleries around the world for them to make their whiskeys, like Whistle Pig for one and Basil Hayden for another. So these guys are essentially the MGP of Canada, if you will. The bottle only began being distributed here in America in 2021, so it is kind of new to our shelves. For history, I give it 4 points. Bottle, label, and marketing. This bottle is somewhat attractive and eye-catching. You've got, with all the chiseled glass here, kind of almost a decanter style. And then a bold, even elegant black label. You do have a screw top, not a cork. I've seen no real marketing for this, although lots of internet reviews and a lot of chatter about this a few years ago. But I think most of the chatter was about the cask strength edition of this. Their website could be improved. Bottle, label, and marketing, 4 points. Appearance of this whiskey. Well, in the bottle, you can see it, but in the glass, This is a fairly faint, light golden color. So that's a 2 plus. You know, 2 headed to 3. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 points there. Composition. The bottle and website say this is 100% rye, and they use the Rocky Mountain snowmelt water, but they don't give the name of the river or the mountain where they get the water. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Scotch is that they frequently give you, you know, which river and where it is on which island or whatever. And the same thing in Texas is they'll frequently tell you what type of corn, what type of rye, what type of barley, what type of water. So that would all be helpful, but I don't get that with this one. One review said that this was a 5-year whiskey. Really? I kind of doubt that, but I don't know. It is 40 ABV or 80 proof. So for composition, you know, I get some information here at least. 13 out of 15 points. Now let's go for the nose. My nose is not real good for sniffing a whiskey. Mowed the yard this afternoon, so now I'm stuffy, which makes it even worse. I get a little bit of rye spice, but it is going in the direction of a rubber eraser, which happens with rye sometimes, for me at least. I've seen other people say the same thing. So really, there's not much appealing on the nose at all. My average score is 7 out of 10 if I can't smell anything because my nose is so bad. But so this is a 6 out of 10 because it's not a good nose. All right, time to taste. Unfortunately, the taste is not following the nose. Here I get hints of honey. It's a bit grassy, perhaps. That's why I'm saying there's no way this is 5 years old. This tastes fairly young. I do get a slight rye spice, but it's not the eraser thing. This is a decent rye spice. It's much better than the nose. But everything in here is faint, weak, and understated. Nothing offensive. Maybe a touch of fruit, like possibly green grapes or green apples, or Granny Smith apple. And so it is better than I remembered from last time, but still fairly weak. Yeah, 18 out of 25 for taste. Mouthfeel, burn, and finish. This is thin at 80 proof, just, you know, very thin, watery. I get some decent mouth tingles, but no real burn, nothing going down. You know, it tingles a little bit in the back of the throat, but nothing going up or down. So it qualifies, I think, as smooth. The finish is a bit stronger than you would expect. It's still fairly short though, but you get the honey and the fruit notes lingering some. No real rye spice lingering, but some honey and fruit notes. You know, this is almost like a blended Scotch or something, you know, except weaker. So mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 9 out of 15. Neat or mixer? Well, this is, sad to say, not much use as a sipper, although, I mean, if people don't like whiskey and they don't like strong flavors, maybe this is for them. You know, it's just a little bit too weak. I think if you put this on ice, it would likely disappear. Now, last time that I reviewed this whiskey, I did not make a cocktail So this time, I made a cocktail yesterday using Sprite, zero sugar, and a couple of thin slices of apple. And it was drinkable, but not real exciting. Perhaps a little bit better than drinking it neat, and my wife enjoyed the cocktail more than me. I'm going to pause this and go make a slightly different cocktail. I think I'll use ginger ale. So let me make that and come right back. Okay, I'm back and I've made a cocktail using Canada Dry, zero sugar ginger ale, and 2 slices of apple with some ice. So the difference from yesterday's cocktail and today is I'm using ginger ale instead of Sprite. I was not impressed with the Sprite. Normally I try to use 7-Up, but for whatever reason the store was out of 7-Up. It is better with the ginger ale. This is better. I think my wife will really like this. Okay, so I can definitely recommend, if you're going to use this whiskey, a cocktail using ginger ale is the way to go, not Sprite. I've not tried it with the 7-Up. Maybe sometime I will, but yeah, so neater mixer. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 points. Because again, it's not offensive neat. It's just a little bit useless for me. I prefer stronger flavors, stronger proof, and all that. But with the Canada Dry Ginger Ale, this was decent. So 4 out of 5 points for neat or mixer. Price, value, and availability. Specs has this available for $23.78, and Total Wine did not have it. Goody Goody had it for $19.99. I still think the Specs price is too high for this whiskey, and even the Goody Goody price I think is too high, because the big problem here I see is value. This is more expensive than several Canadian whiskeys that are frankly a lot better, and there are other rye whiskeys that are better than this for around 20 bucks. I mean, immediately I think of Canadian Club, 100% rye. That's one of my favorites. 80 proof, still 80 proof. Jim Beam Rye, cheaper than this. Old Overholt is a little bit more than this, but a lot better. So I'm not feeling it, guys. Really not feeling it. So price, value, and availability, only a 6 out of 10. This is a whiskey looking for a purpose. Bonus points. Again, this whiskey is just all around pretty much a disappointment. Inoffensive, I guess decent as a mixer if you use ginger ale. For those who don't like whiskey. So bonus points, only 1 point out of 5. This gives me a total score of 69, which is just a little bit higher than last time. And if you find that other video on Stab the Dragon Productions, I mistotaled the score there. I think I scored it as a 60, and it was really something like a 68. Higher math eludes me. I can't count. Letter grade for drinkability. This is a C+, which is a bit higher than last time, but you know, at a C+ level, I'm not ever going to buy this again. So my analysis and recommendation, while not a bad tasting whiskey, and I have had some bad ones, not many. I have a broad palate. I'm pretty generous. So this is not bad. It's just faint and weak. The flavors are just weak. And so it makes it kind of useless to me. Perhaps if this was 86 proof or above, it might be something. So I simply can't recommend this whiskey, and I'm greatly disappointed in it. But on the bright side of things, Alberta Province is going through a political crisis right now. There's some interesting situations going on with Alberta and even Saskatchewan. Uh, there's a strong secessionist movement there. And so if Alberta were to leave Canada, would they become an independent nation, or would they become America's 51st state, and this distillery would then be domestic for us? Ooh, that's a thought. All right. Well, this is Texas Rye Whiskey Studies and Stab the Dragon Productions out here.